looks like it's a good time to start. So
Yeah.
happy to be with you this morning and to be here with our friend Tara. So welcome to our Mind the Moments Thursday morning gathering brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. This is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino, and I am so happy to be here this morning with Tara Healey, founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare's mindfulness program. Hello, Tara.
Hello, Suzanne, and hello, everyone. So nice to have all of you joining us. It's really fun to see that, the numbers tick up, and so welcome, everybody.
It's funny, the hello, Tara reminded me of hello, Jerry. Remember that? The mailman from
Yes,
Seinfeld.
yes,
Hello, Jerry.
yes, that was Newman.
Newman, right. Well, so we're happy to see you here this morning. And so for those that are new, a special welcome. And for our regulars, we're always so happy to have you here this morning. So Tara will start us off today with a question. And then after that, just share a few thoughts with us, and we'll go right into our meditation practice. That is approximately at least 12 minutes, which is the sweet spot that Dr. Amishi Jha from the University of Miami has mentioned is really the sweet spot for real change to happen in our lives in regards to meditation. So we're happy to meditate with you. And then after that, we'll have time for questions. So go to the bottom of your screen, open up the chat if you could. And when you do that, you can click on the drop-down menu, and that will give you an opportunity to click on everyone. And then folks can see your comments and questions throughout the session. So Tara, what is the question for this morning?
Yeah, so let me give a little bit of a preamble, what sort of led up to this question. So I just finished, and I don't know if anybody did the 10-day challenge with Dan Harris and the Dalai Lama. It was a free challenge on 10% happier, and I just decided to do it. And so the last day was yesterday, and Dan Harris, in closing, one of the things he said, as he was kind of recalling the series, and he had Dr. Richard Davidson on, who runs the Center for Investigating Healthy Minds, and Roshi Joan Halifax is the person who led all of the meditations. And then Dan would interview the Dalai Lama. But he said, as you think about the 10 sessions, there's one, if you walk away with just one thing, he said that one thing is the thread that binds everything together. And that one thing is love. And kind of coming from a fidgety skeptic, I thought, I wasn't sure what he was going to say, but I really love that he said that, in part because he said there are all kinds of love, right? All different kinds of love. And so I started thinking also about how we often talk to ourselves. So I started thinking about self-love, and it really matters how we talk to ourselves, because we know and Richie Davidson says this all the time, that whatever we incline our mind toward on a regular basis, we train, right? And that makes sense. Neurons that fire together, wire together is another phrase that kind of gets at that same thing. And so to be really aware of what our habitual tendencies of mind are, especially around self-love. So the question that I have is, if someone asked you to describe yourself in one or two words, what might you say? And partly as that question lands for you, where do you go right away? So just start to notice how that question feels in your body, and where you're going, what you're initially thinking about, and where you may land with an answer. So if someone were to ask you to describe yourself in a word or two, or even a phrase, we want to make this as easy as possible. what one word or two words or phrase might you use? Might you say? So Suzanne, I'm going to start with you, of course, as always. And while folks are thinking and, kind of gathering their thoughts.
Yeah. So the first thing I thought of is, well, actually, it wasn't just one or two words, but that I tend to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
People have told me that I just have I don't know, I just have a way, if I can notice if people are feeling a little uncomfortable, and I like to put people at ease.
Yeah. Yes. And
Yeah.
knowing Suzanne, that just fits so perfectly. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm adventurous. We were talking about this earlier. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So Tara, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the word that a couple words that come to me is open-hearted. I feel like in part through years of practice and really sort of understanding not only the nature of my mind, but others' minds, this sense of compassion for humanity has developed. I think the seeds of that were there for me, but yeah, I would say that's where I start, is with a sense of open-heartedness with most people that I meet. Yeah.
That for sure. I noticed that, and for sure with you, Tara. I have to say too that isn't there I know there's been some type of research about people that meditate tend to be more compassionate people.
Well, yeah, I think there is some research in that way. And it's funny, I was listening to the Mind and Life podcast last night, which is fantastic. And they were interviewing Zindel Siegel, who was somebody involved and still is with mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. The final question for him was, how has the practice influenced you? How has your own practice influenced you? And he said three things, but one of the things he said too is that his judgment of others has greatly reduced. So
Yeah.
there is something about, just really seeing the nature of our own minds and what our minds do, without criticism of it, but this capacity to see what arises for us with softness and feel the physical expression in the body of that. Really significant. And just knowing that this is what minds do, not just his mind or our minds, but this is I think was a key learning for me early on, is just that, oh my goodness, all of these thoughts that I am not trying to make happen, that are bubbling up for me, are happening for everybody else. And it's the content and the stories are different because our family circumstances, our life circumstances are different. And that's where the content comes from. But this capacity to see that this is the nature of mind. And we are, as Joseph Goldstein will often say, if we want to get to know the mind better, let's look at it. And that's what we do in these practices. But I see things coming in, so I'm really curious.
For sure. For sure. So passionate, enthusiastic and kind, passionate, helpful and kind, reserved, curious and helpful, caring, patient, kind, good friend, strong and compassionate.
Love it. Love it.
Hard worker, industrious, curious and open-hearted. Tend to ask questions and people open their lives to me. It's uncanny. Yes.
Yeah.
Appreciates humor.
Yeah.
Empathy. I describe myself as a worrier, which I'm working on. However, I think there's a disconnect between how others see me versus how I see myself.
Yeah. That someone might be surprised that Tammy is a worrier, right? That she's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important when you mention that, Tammy, that comes up, because it's a lot of self, that you're self-aware, which is so important these days,
Yeah.
Sometimes people can just zone out on some of the things that they are just not, connect with it and understand it. So that's part of it. So
yeah. I thank you, everybody. And I think, again, just what came up for you? You don't have to answer this, but what came up for you initially with that question? Was there any kind of bodily contraction or, mental, emotional contraction? Was there expansiveness as that question landed? What did it bring up for you? And so,
Mm,
and
yeah.
appreciate humor. Yeah, yes. I can very much relate to that as as a child growing up. I always found the funniest person in the class and would sort of secretly giggle in the back of the room. So
That's
yes, the
funny.
appreciation of humor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, that these days, I think that is dramatically important,
Yeah,
God.
totally.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So I think we're ready to go ahead and move into a practice.
Sounds good.
Um, and I would invite people to just assume a posture that feels like it's going to work best for you this morning. So if you're sleepy, you might try standing, keeping the eyes open, but gaze downward. If you're sleepy, you can sit, but keep the eyes open, gaze downward. Lying down is always an option too, but it's suggestive of sleep. So that one, comes with a little bit of caution. But so let's go ahead and um, settle into a posture that feels engaged and upright, yet at the same time relaxed. So it's like the spine is straight but not stiff. We're softening the body around the spine. Eyes can be open or closed, whatever feels best for you. If they're open, gaze downward just a little bit. And take a moment to just take 2 deep breaths to help settle any surface tension. And see if you can make the exhalation on those 2 breaths just a bit longer than the inhalation as a way to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So go ahead on your own, couple deep breaths. And as you settle into a posture, see if you can connect in with the points of contact with the surface that you're on, and allow your weight to surrender into the support of the earth while maintaining an upright, engaged posture so that the spine is straight but not stiff. And just allow yourself to feel the support of the earth, that you can surrender in and be held in this support. And with a wide angle lens of attention over the whole body, just notice what physical sensations are occurring from your activity this morning. Kind of like a scientist and a subject, what's the physical expression? So pulsing, vibration, temperature. And bringing in an attitude of softness. And bringing in an attitude of care for this body. And just for a moment, let's expand awareness to include sound that might be in the room or outside of the room, and just engage hearing. And allowing sound to remain as it will in the background, bringing awareness back to the body. And let's start to look for an anchor for the wandering mind. So beginning to narrow the focus of awareness on the sensations present when you breathe in and breathe out. And wherever you notice the feeling, the actual physical sensation of the in breath and the out breath, Let your awareness land there. Allow that to serve as an anchor. So tracking the sensations when you breathe in, tracking the sensations when you breathe out. The mind will wander. And when you notice, not a problem. Soft mental note, thinking, soften the body and return again over and over. Alternatively, if breath is challenging this morning, you can find another body sensation. It could be a point of contact with a body part, hands resting on thighs or the back of the body or the soles of the feet. You can also use sound. So you've got a few options. It doesn't really matter what you choose. What matters is the quality of awareness that you bring. Just allowing this thing to be a stabilizer for the wandering mind, something that you can just return to over and over again. So I'll be silent for the next several minutes. And noticing where the mind is now without any judgment, releasing the narrative, the storyline, the memory, the planning, the regret, the worry. You can simply make a soft mental note thinking. You can be more specific if you want. And then soften your body, maintaining that engaged spine, and escort your attention back to the anchor, the stabilizer. And as we bring this meditation to a close, may we be peaceful and at ease. May our hearts be soft and open. May we be safe and protected, and our bodies healthy and strong. And may we wish the same for all beings everywhere. And may the merit of our practice be for the benefit of all beings. And if your eyes were closed, you can go ahead and open. And whether they were open or closed, it's helpful just to reorient to the space. So take a moment to stretch and maybe look around the room, reconnect with your surroundings. And yeah, so we've got a couple minutes for comments or, questions, anything that anybody would like to anything anyone would like to offer.
So just a couple more comments on the question. I know Jackie said, I felt my heart soften with the question, kind of tenderness. So,
Yeah,
that's a lovely way to react,
Yeah. Yeah. And Karen, really interesting to, see that, because I think part of what I was asking of everyone, myself included, was what's bubbling up, what bubbles up initially, what follows it, yeah.
Yeah. It is so interesting to see where the mind goes with certain inquiries. It's nice to think of the first reaction.
Yes.
Like Karen says, it's so interesting to to connect with that at first, because you can see, it's just interesting where the mind goes.
Right, right. And I think, I think I've said this before, but in the early days of my practice, when I was first started and was really looking at what the mind does when you remove all distraction and you're doing these practices, I felt like I had this, almost like I was walking around with this secret, like, oh my goodness, like this is what everyone's mind does. Because I think sometimes we feel alone in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that softened me to humanity, really, like, and especially that some of our thoughts that we believe that don't really warrant belief, but and the practice helps us see that. And that the other thing is self-love is trainable. Like this is a trainable skill. We hear this over and over and over again through the research.
John, it's so interesting what you've said. It's interesting that you can think of doing your to-do list before, so it's not in your practice. So so interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, because it's I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah.
Feeling change. Yeah. Teresa, I like that. I loved your sharing about how we think of ourselves and diminished judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned, Tara, about judgment, I remember being on retreat with Tuwari Salah, who is one of my all-time favorite meditation teachers from Seattle Insight Mindfulness. But she mentioned just hearing someone like that who's been practicing in such a deep practice say, oh my gosh, there are times when my mind is never clear during meditation. Like I just, she would say during retreat, I didn't have one quiet moment.
Yeah.
The whole 45 minutes. So just hearing someone that's so steeped in practice, like, okay, there I am.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that what practice does, and I think Tuwari would probably say this, is that you actually, over time, the stuff still bubbles up. The busy mind still is there, but you are actually relating to it in a very different way. So you just have more space with it. It's like, oh, not a problem. Here you are, friend, busy mind, as opposed to, maybe earlier in a practice being like just so frustrated by it or put off by it. But it just, and again, I think part of the nuggets in this practice are how we relate to everything. How are we relating and engaging to everything? Do we have a little more space? And it's a way to tell if the practice is working even, because it can be a common question, like, is the practice working? Well, how are you with that neighbor that provokes you, or that sibling, or how with that project at work that has been challenging for you? Do you have a little bit more, kind of mental, emotional space with it? Or are you really contracted? And if you are contracted, like the knowing of that shows progression in practice. Really the seeing it.
Yeah, I love this. I love just being connected to all of this, because like you said, it's just understanding it. And what Jackie's mentioned, that that we can everything changes. We can change our self-talk. It doesn't have to be the way things are. So well, we're at 9:01. So lovely to talk with all of you. And Tara, it's always fabulous to have you on.
So nice to be with everybody.
Grateful for our sessions. So nice to see everyone. And we'll be here next Tuesday. So we'll see you soon. Have a great end of your week and weekend. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye, everybody.